game is a big game when it's wild hockey.
Think it ain't.
Feel the intensity and excitement at Grand Casino Arena this season. Get your tickets today at wild.com/tickets.
Couple 13-14 pass. Common Man program. I'm Comedies 10 to be. Let's just be fair warning, 10 to be, to Vikings, Bears, and Packers fans. The Lions have hired the mastermind behind that Cardinals offense to lead the Lions offense.
I always love that one.
Because you know that Cardinals offense was so scary last year and so effective. Well, that's why they won 3 games. Did they win even 3?
They went on like a 10-game losing streak at the end of the season once Kyler Murray got taken out.
Someone says criminals and firefighters are the only people who should back into parking spots. And someone had said just before that, or immediately following that, said 4 seconds later, I back into every place I park, mostly because I'm a firefighter and I need a quick escape for a call. So that makes sense, right?
Yeah. There's logic behind that.
And if you are a criminal. Was there a group called 3-6 Mafia?
A rap group, yes.
Yeah. Is that their name?
Yeah.
Now, a limousine driver I know, this was many, many years ago, 10, 12, 13, 14 years ago, was driving for 3-6 Mafia. They had a show in town. You know what the band told him? Back in and keep the car running. Brilliant. Because I guess they had a lot of enemies that were draining all their energies. Back the car in and keep it running. So there you go. You know, when you were a kid, there was things you didn't like and you change as you become an adult. For instance, when I was a kid, I didn't like spankings. Back in my Haight-Ashbury days, I brought this up before. You know, I was, Led Zeppelin, The Who, Rolling Stones. I mean, we were rock and rollers, right? Deep Purple, whoever the case may be. You weren't supposed to like bands like ABBA, right? Like Dancing Queen?
No.
Or rocker. So you would pretend you didn't like Dancing Queen, but then when you were in the car by yourself, you would crank up Dancing Queen and sing along because it's a great song, right? Right? You like Dancing Queen.
Oh, it's a great song.
Yeah.
I like SOS better.
Do you? Yeah. Dancing Queen's my favorite. I think it's mostly that piano flourish at the very beginning. Is what I like the best. I think another thing, if you're a guy, you're not supposed to like figure skating. And I think I've made no bones about it. It's it's my favorite winter or summer Olympic event is figure skating. And I've explained why before. I know all the Olympic sports are like this. Here's your moment, right? You're doing the downhill. You're doing the slalom. You're doing the luge, bobsled, whatever the case may be. You get a ski jump. But I just think with the figure skating, you're warming up, circling around, and then all of a sudden you come to a complete stop in the middle, and you get in your starting pose. And then the music starts, and then you begin, and you got your 4 minutes. And, each jump is planned. They know how many jumps you are supposed to attempt during an event, and they know when they're coming. So when I'm watching, they go, analyst guy, or gal, Peggy Fleming will go, okay, Teneby is about to do his triple sow cow right now. And then all of a sudden you go, and you're just kind of like...
They build up the anticipation.
Then you almost don't want to watch because you're afraid they're going to crash and fall, and you feel awful if they do and if they get through it. And then it's, it blends athleticism with grace, and I just love it. I just think it's a lot of fun. But there's a headline I just saw, Teneby, that says, this was over the weekend, has figure skating reached the limits of human performance? Here's what it says. Dave Scretta writes this piece. He's a regular writer for Associated Press. It says, it was a relatively minor event in upstate New York in September 2022 when Ilya Malinin, the self-anointed quad god, who was fast becoming the biggest name in figure skating, finally landed the jump that so many people had thought impossible. Others had tried quad axles in competition over the years. All of them had fallen. Hence, he's the quad god. That extra 180 degrees of rotation necessary for the only jump in skating that starts with a forward-facing entry, much like when you pull into a parking space, a forward-facing entry, proved to be a half revolution too much. Nobody could do it. It was a half revolution too much. So when Malinin landed it inside the arena made famous by the U.S. hockey team's upset of the Soviets in the 1980 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid, it not only sent shockwaves through the tight-knit skating community, but made headlines around the world. Two-time Olympic skater Jason Brown said, "My mind was just blown." Yet by conquering the gravity-defying jump, Malinin also raised an important question. What comes next? The 6 main jumps in figure skating have been standard since the early 1900s. The only difference between then and now is the number of revolutions. Dick Button landed the first double axel in 1948 and the first triple jump 4 years later. Kurt Browning landed the first quad, a toe loop, in 1988, and it was 10 years before Timothy Gable landed the first quad Salchow. And I remember that moment, Tenneby. I'm sure you do as well. It's etched in my memory. By landing the quad axle, Malinin may have maxed out the boundaries of human performance. This is the critical line of the key line of the story, Tenneby. Most sports scientists agree that the speed and amplitude necessary for 5 revolution jumps is truly impossible. It can't be done. A human being cannot do it, leaving figure skating at a crossroads where a dearth of innovation threatens to take the shine off of a sport already fighting to maintain popularity. Malinin said, "I think it's kind of natural that we were going to get to this point, but I haven't reached my top, whether it's in the technical and how much I can jump and spin, but also in the creativity." Malinin, who's 20 years old, points to his signature raspberry twist, not the raspberry beret, but the raspberry twist, a somersaulting spin unlike anything that anybody else does. He created it himself and tends to bring down the house whenever he throws it in near the end of his programs. Yet the flashy maneuver also underscores one of the inherent problems of trying to be creative. It doesn't get rewarded. It can only go against him if he doesn't pull it off. The International Skating Union has rigid requirements for both short programs and free skates, and it rarely pays off to deviate too far from the script. Malinin might not get a lot of extra points for landing the raspberry twist, for example, since it's not one of the 6 standard figure skating jumps, but a failure to land it could cost him dearly. He told the Associated Press, "Absolutely, there are a lot of things I wanted to try. I think would be really cool and appealing, but it's a bigger risk for the program itself, and the system and scoring doesn't seem to make it. It doesn't make any sense." In other words, what's the point of trying to be innovative? Alyssa Liu, the reigning world champ, said, "There are so many rules in your programs that you don't have too much wiggle room. A lot of these rules really restrict us. Like, all of our spins look the same now, but they could look so different." So in other words, what they're trying to say, another skater goes on to say, like the spins in the other way, the jumps the other way, really cool things. You know, someone who's watched a little bit of skating, we're like, "Oh, I've never seen that before." Whereas if I go and do, the norm and do it well versus what she does, my scores will be better, even though what she does is way more impressive in my opinion. So in other words, it almost sounds like they're trying to figure out a way, they need a way to change how you judge figure skating and put it more into creativity than these are the 6 jumps you have to do, and then you have to do them during your program because, okay, that's cool and it's great. But if there are limits and you can only get to a certain point, then where do you go from there? If everybody starts landing what do they call it? The quad god. What did he land? What the hell was the name of it again? Quad axle. Yeah. Or whatever. Well, if everybody else if there are other people, well, then who do you really determine who's the better one unless you wipe out? It's controversial. I know no other show would talk about it. I know. I mean, I don't think Colin Cowherd would talk about it. I don't think Mike and the Mad Dog would talk about it. I don't think Jim Rome would talk about it. I don't think, what is Selleck's first name?
Tom.
I don't think Tom Selleck would talk about it. You ain't going to hear from Tom Selleck. But I think it's interesting that there are things in certain, I guess, activities or sports that virtually scientists are saying, that's what caught me. It's just like, well, that's impossible. Can't do it. Human body cannot do 5 revolutions in a jump in figure skate. And 10-B, maybe if you would have been backing your car in all those years, you could have been the first guy to do it, but you didn't.
I always love
you like
that
to pull
one.
your card forward. I bet the first person, I bet Malin backs his car in. I'd like to ask.
Probably.
Matter of fact, if I ever had him on the air, the first question I would ask him is, do you back your car into a parking spot? We'll ask the Peterson sisters next time we have them on. They're going to the Olympics for Curly Washington. Do they back? I bet one of them backs their car. We'll break. We'll come back. We got a little Dis Dat Lat here in the Comment Man program on the Fan. 10-B as a keyword.
The Fan wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword friend at KFAN.com now for a shot at winning. That keyword is friend. Enter it now at KFAN.com. Miss your chance to know what the latest sports news is in town, chances to win tickets, and knowing what is going on with all your favorite KFAN shows.
How do you do that?
Follow KFAN 1003 on all of our social channels like Instagram, TikTok, and X now. Stay connected and follow the sports leader, KFAN.
And why wouldn't you? We are the leader. Matter of fact, I was the keynote speaker at the KFAN. That's actually the iHeart Media Minneapolis Leadership Council to start off the year. They invited me. We're in trouble.
Huh?
I mean, 10-B, doesn't that signal to you that we're lacking leadership in a lot of different areas here? Like a rudderless ship.
I'm
They're asking me.
questioning the decision-making by some of the higher-ups at this company.
10-B, I had no idea that. And, again, I'm always wary of bringing up controversial topics on the air because I never know where it's going to get us. I didn't know this would be quite as controversial. I don't know if I've had more text message response on the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line to a topic than I have for either pulling it forward into a parking space or backing into it. UPS requires you to back in first. They monitor you and tell you and threaten to fire you if you don't. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that's what he says. Here's another one. Does 10-B not think that it takes time to back out of the parking and then drive forward? His take that back into a spot is time-consuming is clearly wrong. In other words, it takes you probably more time to back in, but then it also takes you more time when you leave, when you back out. Would you agree with that or not?
Well, this is generally speaking. Clearly, there are people that can back into a parking spot at the same time that you can back out. But would we agree that backing into a spot is more challenging? Driving backwards is more challenging than driving forward. Can we agree to that?
If you're not a graduate of the Skip Barber Racing School, yes.
So, given that knowledge, the parking spot you are backing into is limited in space. When you pull forward into a parking spot and are backing out, you have a lot more space to operate with, a lot more space to work with. You're less likely to make mistakes. You'll back up once and get out right away. Whereas a lot of times people back into spots, they're not doing it right. They have to go forward, then backward again because it's more challenging to do. So that takes more time, generally speaking, yes.
Our company policy requires us to back in when parking for safety reasons that you mentioned. Guess Tenna doesn't prioritize safety. Or maybe he just didn't go to the Skip Barber Racing School. There you go. There's the Skip Barber Racing School reference for you. This one says, I find 2 spots back to back, so I never have to back up. That's why I'm more successful at everything except parking. It's not that deep. I'm a driver of big trucks, and I've lived with street parking in Minneapolis for 12 years. Backing in and driving out is easier for me now. 10-B, they're starting to pile up on you.
No, I knew.
The highest percentage of vehicle accidents are caused in reverse mode.
From a parking lot accidents or accidents, period? I would have a hard time believing that.
Tom and I back into every parking space every time in my life is a mess. So it didn't work for him.
I love that one.
So there you go. It's not for everybody, I guess. Here's another one of these company policy things. I used to work at a company where we did a lot of driving. It was company policy to back into spots. If they saw
they must be driving company cars.
Yes. If they saw you pull into a spot, you'd be fired. Insurance dictated that it's safer to have your first move out of a spot to be forward. I had no idea.
I have no doubt maybe pre-camera, rear-view cameras, that yes, you're more likely to hit something over backing out of a spot.
People who back into park could also be considered inconsiderate because they make people wait for them to back in.
Correct.
However, people who pull into park and back out to leave have to wait until there's no traffic to leave. They don't make others wait for them. See? Right? That's what he's saying. You have to wait for everybody to go by. Well, if you're backing and you're holding people up. Here's one. Quicker escape to avoid possible carjack. Well, there's that, I guess. Maybe Tennessee could shed the interim part of his title if he starts backing in. It's possible, I guess. We won't know until you tried. I wonder if it would change your life. If that's
I could start doing it.
And just see if it works.
Because I park in the same area every day, and as does my boss, coroner's office, Chad Abbott, and he always backs in. But he's got one of those big trucks. You know, when you have the big truck, you got to back in.
Well, I will say here in the parking ramp, I 80% of the time back in. And I'm not even a back in guy. I don't know why I do it. I just do. Because usually what I do is I'm not one of, when I come into the ramp, if on the first, everybody likes to park in the lower level first, and the second. And the further you go up, the more spaces are available to you, at least here, and if that's probably at most parking ramps, right? You go to Mall of America, it's the same way. The further up you go, the more open spaces there are, right? But I don't like squeezing in between a couple of cars, right down in the lower level, because oftentimes one car is a little closer to the white line. Like I said, I have trouble sometimes getting right exactly between them. So oftentimes you'll come back to your car and some guy will pulled in. Have you ever gone out to your car and you can barely get your door open? You're on the passenger side of the car that pulled in, right? Mm-hmm. Your driver's side door is on their passenger side door. So they're so close to you, you almost can't get your door open. And that's where, I may have done it before, where you kind of, you just give your door a little bit more of a little bump. Well, dude, what are you doing? How am I supposed to get in my car? You're only thinking of yourself and not thinking about the person that's parked next to you. So oftentimes I will back into my parking spot only because I got plenty of room up there. And then I think about 3-6 Mafia and how they said, but I don't keep my car running while I'm here on the radio station.
You're afraid of the carjacking up at that level, apparently.
I am. Now getting to the camera thing. I never use my reverse camera. Trust my mirrors more. I get that even though I know the cameras aren't going to fail.
What about the camera are you worried about?
I don't know.
You think like somebody's hacking your camera and putting a different camera view on there to throw you off and now you're running things over?
What if they were? The camera lets you get lazy and people don't pay attention. I've seen many people back out and almost hit people because they are so focused on the camera instead of their surroundings. What do you think that tend to be? You're so focused on your camera.
To act like the camera it isn't as safe as without a camera is absolutely ridiculous. There's a reason they're all putting them in the cars. They are immensely more safer. Because you can actually see what's behind you.
When you have
the mirrors, you can't see what's directly behind you. There could be a little child there and you wouldn't be able to see.
When you're backing in and having trouble, just channel your inner 9 and put it 8 feet into the ditch behind the parking spot. Wow. There just had to be a Viking quarterback cheap shot there. Hillbilly here, longtime listener of KFAN, and curious as to why we can only watch the Power Trip daily and none of the other shows. Is that true? Do they not run the cameras for all the shows, just for the Power Trip?
Just the Power Trip and then select, right? We run the cameras for program password. Yeah. If we knew Kevin O'Connell was going to come in studio with you tomorrow, they could set it up, but you need to have someone running it. And Zacho runs it for the power trip, but apparently he doesn't want to be here all day.
Well, the power trip is so funny and so wacky and unpredictable. They're not only stimulating with audio, but visually as well. Yoga pants, breasts. That's a really great show. We'll pause, come back. One more segment to go. It's the Common Man program here on The Fan. He is Tennessee. We spent an entire segment of the show, and of course it's continued here with some of the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line texts that we received. We were talking about psychology will tell you that if you back into your parking space rather than pull forward, you'll be imminently successful in your life. Really, no matter what you do, this will change your life. If you drive straight into it, you'll end up being like Tennessee. Here's somebody sent this to me. They said they just saw a study that people that separate their dots by color are more likely to call Thanksgiving Day bag skates. So, and I think that's probably true because you like to separate your dots and you call Thanksgiving Day bag skates.
Sounds accurate to me.
It does as well. You think I'm negative about the Vikings situation? Somebody sent this to me at my email, comment@kfan.com, which I wouldn't have been able to check it today if I didn't learn how to check my email on my phone. Chad Abbott was able to figure it out on my phone, and now I can check it.
You've got to be kidding me.
This is what Paul Charchian tweeted. By the way, he's got a blue check mark to let everybody know this is the real me. I'm not somebody that's an imposter pretending they're Paul Charchian, because who wouldn't want to be Paul Charchian? Here's what he tweeted, Tennessee. Life as a Vikings fan right now. Aaron Rodgers wanted to play in Minnesota, wins his division. Bo Nix, taking one pick after J.J. McCarthy, brings his team to the AFC Championship. Sam Darnold, who wanted to stay in Minnesota, leads the Seahawks to the NFC Championship game. And then he has a picture. He included a picture of Kevin O'Connell. Sounds like he's being a little negative to me, Tennessee. And let me see if now he's out in Utah now. Is that correct? Let's see if the negatrometer can travel that far. It's being awful negative is what I think. Here's another text message that came in. Comment, I came across another article where radio experts searched far and wide and came to the conclusion that radio hosts were pushing the limit of how little show prep they could do until these experts tuned into your show. You are untouchable in the world of radio show prep or lack thereof. By the way, Emily weighed in on the figure skating conversation. She wrote a number of things, including final thought. It's not a sal chow. It's pronounced sal cow.
I thought it was sow cow.
I thought it was sow cow as well. Oh, no, somebody else just said sow cow. See how controversial the show gets? It is a sow cow. Yeah, because then she corrected herself. It's called a sow cow. So there you go. I'm telling you, it's going to be the parking one thing. I'm not making it up. Look at just one after another. Been a while since I did my driving test. I'm sure they will make you do a 90-degree back in. I've heard people who back in, especially at work, are already thinking about leaving when they show up. So, that makes sense. I disagree with 10 on backing in. If you do it once in a while, you may take more attempts than one, but I do it all the time, and backing in saves time overall. Backing into a space is safer than backing out of a parking space. Here's another. I'm with Tenna. Backing into a smaller space takes more time than backing into a wider driving area. This one says, you're significantly more talented, but also have way too much time on your hands if you back in consistently. It just goes on and on. Tenna's too busy to back in. I back in every parking spot, and I am a +1 handicap. Tennessee, he backs in, and he's a +1.
Well, if I can change my golf game, that'll be the one thing that'll make me change the way I drive.
My Jeep is no reverse, so I have to be careful where I park. That's those kind of cars where when you fill it with gas, it doubles in value. My buddy had a car that would not go in reverse.
How?
Well, it just wouldn't. So you had to make sure you parked.
Like the gear thing wasn't working,
whatever,
or literally the car was designed to never go in reverse.
No, it was just something because we drove cars that you fill them with gas, they double in value. So you just had, like our car, I had a car where, and this is what's weird because I've thought about it since then. I think all we really would have had to have done was put a bolt back in place. But it used to be where the starter would fall out of place on the car. So somebody would have to, I had a stick that I would carry in my car, and I'd have to be with somebody, and they would go underneath the car and push the starter into place. Then I could turn on the key and it would start.
So you always had to drive with a friend.
You have to drive with a friend. I've told this story about my buddy's Ford Cortina. This is 1964 Ford Cortina. I'm not making this up. I've told this on the radio before. The passenger door, it was a 4-door, but the passenger door on the in the front seat, passenger side, you would take, the hinges were broke, so you had to take the door completely off. The person would get in, and then you would have to take the door and shove it into place.
Did someone else have to help you from the outside of that one, or could you put it? Okay.
Somebody had to put it in and out of place from outside. So if you had a passenger, you were like their chauffeur. You would open the door for them and let them get in. And I'm not making this up.
Dad, I got to go. Can you pop my door back on for me, please?
So your fenders are on the front of the car, right? That in the quarter panels that go down the side, the fenders on the side, right? They became like rusted away at the bottom. So when you would drive down the road and get up to 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, they would go out like wings, and they would be going like it's. But that's all we had. We didn't have any money. We couldn't buy any. That was the cars we had. So you just drove them the way they were.
I had one the other day where you're driving on the highway and the car you're approaching that you're about to pass has some sort of like pipe or something that's dragging on the highway, and like just the car is going down with sparks. And I'm always wondering if I'm like, should I let them know that there are sparks flying, or do they already know and they don't?
Right.
I'd be like the 40th person telling them and they're annoyed with it. Well, I never know how to approach that situation.
Well, So we're in Palm Springs going to a restaurant. Deuce is driving. And all of a sudden, someone's blinking their lights on and off. And well, what are you doing that for? What's going on? Then all of a sudden, we pull up to a stoplight, and we're going straight in the left lane. Somebody else is going to take the left-hand turn lane. And he goes, hey, turn your headlights on. We didn't even know the headlights weren't on. They looked like they were on.
What?
Well, you're driving. There's lights here, so we were driving. And by the way, baby brother Peter, he just went back to he got pulled over the other day by the cops.
Really? For speeding?
No, his dad hadn't put on new tabs for 2 years. The cop said, I don't understand. Your tabs say 2024, your car's 2020. It's now 2026. Now, when I called in, you have the tabs. Why aren't they on the car? And my boy goes, I don't know. It's my dad's car. He said, tell your dad to put the tabs on his car. So I did. I actually did. I finally did. After 2 years, I put tabs on the car. I drove an entire year without tabs.
But you paid for the registration, right?
Yes, paid for the registration.
You just received it in the mail and decided not to go put them on.
Yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Then you set them aside. You just don't do it at all. In Altoona, Wisconsin, there's a retail area where the diagonal parking spots were set up for cars to back in. They reversed the lines after years so nobody could figure out how to back in straight. That only makes sense. I back in because one time my battery died and nobody had jumper cables that could reach the front of the car.
That was the one argument I would always hear. That's the Chad Abbott argument, is if I need to have my car jumped, which in Minnesota in the winter, that makes sense. But you know what? He still backs into a spot when it's 80 degrees in the middle of the summer. Right. So it's not strictly that.
But that would be the one reason I can see.
That's the one argument I will allow.
I'm a St. Thomas alum and I don't back in. Okay.
So am I.
Yeah. Here's another that says, a study I read that says people who think pickles are yucky do not like to back into parking spots. So
I always
confirmed.
Love
that's confirmed then.
Pickles are yucky.
Yeah, I love pickles. And I'm also backing in on my comment at KFAN.com. This is a controversial topic. And I guess we could go on and on, but I think instead of going on and on, we'll move on. There was one other story I wanted to bring up, Teneby, that I found on my handheld, which doubles as. Hold on.
While you're waiting to find it, I just want to mention for the first time, the highest in program history, the University of St. Thomas men's hockey team is ranked 16th in the nation.
Really?
And the University of Minnesota is not even ranked. They're not even in the others considering votes category.
Seriously?
So right now, the University of St. Thomas has a better hockey team than the University of Minnesota.
I must admit.
I mean, you can't.
Well, and I must admit, when they decided to go Division I and all these, I thought, why? You're not going to be able to compete. It's going to take you decades. But it looks like already that in most sports, they're competitive, correct or not?
I always knew that hockey and basketball would be their best shots. Basketball, they're not obviously playing at a Big 18 level. So they're always going to be kind of a mid-American type team. But hockey, while they're not going to have the money and the fan base that some of these other big schools, what they do have going for them is the best place to find hockey players in the United States of America is the Twin Cities metro area. So you have a built-in in the United States, yes. If you want to find hockey players, this is the best place to do it. So they have a built-in advantage there. So there was always a chance they could develop.
I don't know if this is lastly for today, because I don't know if this will take the entire, we got about 6-7 minutes. Are you familiar with a former, I don't know if he's still alive. I think he might be retired. So I don't know if you'll recognize the name. His name is Paul Zimmerman. He used to write football for Sports Illustrated. Highly regarded. Dr. Z, does that ring a bell with you at all?
Does not.
I stumbled across this story in The Athletic, and they quoted Paul Zimmerman. And he was considered, I don't know who the foremost football expert writer now would be. I guess in our town, there's a couple of guys you could put in there. But, people that really are considered, boy, when they talk, people listen.
Well, they're never just writers anymore. They do 5 different things now.
That's true. But here's what these 2 paragraphs said. In Paul Dr. Z. Zimmerman's classic 1970 book, A Thinking Man's Guide to Pro Football, he began his chapter on quarterbacks with a quote from his old high school coach who said, "Never mind how many passes he throws and what his completion percentage looks like. My quarterback's got to be the guy who takes you in the last 2 minutes when it's getting dark and the fans are booing and the wind is blowing and there's so much ice on the ball, he can't grip it." That's what I've been saying for years. Not exactly like that. But I've said I just find that there are other people out there that employ the esoteric approach when it comes to sports. Sports is your whole life, just sports. Dr. Z's old high school football coach said, never mind how many passes he throws and what his completion percentage look like. My quarterback's got to be the guy who takes you in the last 2 minutes when it's getting dark and the fans are booing and the wind is blowing and there's so much ice on the ball he can't grip it. Who can take your team down? I always used it. You're on the road, conference championship game, 1:02 to go. You have 0 or 1 timeout left. You're on your own 8-yard line and you've got to drive down the field. Yeah. None of the other stuff matters now anymore. His completion percentage is really good. Boy, I'll tell you what, he's a great hander offer. It's like, no, does he have what it's, and that's what all the great ones are able to do. And that's why I'm so high on Caleb Williams. And I don't see why you shouldn't be. And I know it pains a lot of Viking fans. Probably
they don't want to believe it.
Yeah, a lot of Viking fans and Packer fans as well. Because he was so mediocre, or at least inconsistent in his rookie year under Eberflus. How many times did you see him hang on the ball way too much? Did he lead the league in interceptions last year? I don't know if he did, but I think he was among the leaders. Now he gets another year under his belt. He gets under an offensive coordinator who really knows what he's doing, who has a complicated system. And I mean, I don't, you can talk about, we talked earlier, there's a stat out there where, the Bears had 7 come from behind victories this year in the fourth quarter. I mean, furious rallies to win the game. And some of that, there's a little bit of horseshoe to that, right? You got to have a little bit of luck. But, man, when you do it that many times, there's something about, much like the Vikings. How many one-score victories they have? Was that in O'Connell's first year or second year? First year, I think it was. A lot of, you know what, that's not all luck. Some of it is. And does it always hold serve every year? No, the Vikings went 7-10 the next year. Same with Kansas City. We brought up that stat. They were 11-0 2 years ago in 2024 in one-score games. They were 1-9 this year, 1-7, whatever that is. But I'll tell you, the story goes on to say, Zimmerman then admitted, of course, there is more to quarterbacking, but when it all comes down to those last few minutes, all the great ones, the late, great Zimmerman wrote, had the knack for being at their best in those moments. That passage reminded me of something Seth Wickersham wrote in his recent book, American Kings, which explored the history and modern state of NFL quarterbacking, and it goes on and on and on. But while the other stuff is important, you know, touchdown to turnover, touchdown to interception ratio, yards per pass play, third down conversions, all of those things. To me, to just go, and I think that's why a lot of people, I think fantasy football will do that to people, because a lot of people look at strictly just fantasy football numbers, not just quarterback, but all positions, and go, well, this guy is this running back or this wide receiver, tight end, this quarterback doesn't have those gaudy numbers to get you points. But there are other important factors into playing each position that that determines how good a quarterback is, I think. And so, heck, that was even, here's one that says, I believe Caleb Williams led the league in an NFL record in sacks last year. So, yeah. This one says, I drive a truck. We're back to that now, Tennessee. I drive a truck. I always back in whenever I can. I found it safer because you can drive past the parking spot, look and see that there's nothing in the spot, back in, and then when you leave, you know there's nothing in front of you. There are lots of blind spots in a truck. Then there's this one. How'd that St. Thomas men's basketball game go on Saturday?
I don't know what happened.
I don't know. He's just asking, so my assumption is it
didn't go well.
It probably didn't go well.
I know they beat North Dakota recently. Oh, they lost to North Dakota State.
It
happens.
It does indeed.
Can't win them all.
We'll get more into it as the week goes on. We will with Here's one that says, so comment by that philosophy, Eli Manning should definitely be in the Hall of Fame. I have said he should be. Yes, I've said that. I know Tennessee doesn't agree.
I said he shouldn't be.
Yes, and I think most people agree with you. I think Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer because he won 2 big games, and when he really needed to step up and win games, obviously he did, because there were other games leading up to that. And again, you can make the argument that he doesn't deserve to be there, and I will tell you this, though, Tennessee, I will not rest until Eli Manning is in the Hall of Fame. Because that's what Rosen said about Jim Marshall. He would not rest until he's in the Hall of Fame. So Mark Rosen must be really tired, because Jim Marshall's not in the Hall of Fame yet, and he's passed away. So I don't know if Jim's ever going to get in there, but let's hope he does, because he certainly was deserving. I think they got this one, Tennessee. They got you now. Tennessee doesn't back in because he can't turn the wheel fast enough wearing those grubby little hockey gloves. So that's what it is it?
I always love that one.
Tennessee, I know this probably isn't going out on a limb. Denver, New England with Knicks, I think, would have been a pick 'em.
I think the look-ahead line was which they had before all the games were played.
Okay.
They did look-ahead lines.
Okay.
And Denver would have been favored by 1.5. I believe now New England is favored by 4.5.
Yeah.
So that's,
and rightly so, because Stiddy, he's 1-3. He's only started, I think, 4 games in his career. How many years has he been in the league now? Several.
He's been in there for a while. He used to play for New England.
Yeah.
I remember, was it Josh McDaniels that liked him a lot? And always thought that he could be a starting quarterback in this league?
Yeah, I think that may have been it. But yeah, so that does. But again, what some of the so-called insiders were talking about last night is, I think they're right. I mean, I think it makes more work for Sean Payton to say, okay, I've got to put together a game plan that takes advantages of the strengths that he does have. But let's face it, if he was really, really good and you could just say, hey, same game plan with Bo Nix, don't matter, he'd be starting somewhere else. There's a reason he's a backup quarterback, is because he's not as good at the position.
I think we're going to see Sean try to pull out a trick or two out of his pocket. We're going to do like a fake punt, something like that.
I think you're right. The other game, and I always say this, I never like to go, it's going to be a great game because we don't know. It can end up being a blowout. But it has all the makings. Revenge, Seattle, L.A. Yeah, a lot of storylines, and it should be good football. Boy, I enjoyed our visit today with our listeners, Tennessee, and I hope you did too. And hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, great job.
Yeah, you as well. And we did enjoy being with you today. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Remember, it's the Nico Medved show at 12 noon. Mark Rosen will join us at 2. Are you in for...
Oh, boy.
What's that? Guardsy is gone. So it's Brett Blake. We're in for Guardsy. Big ticket in this chair. We'll talk to you around 12 noon here or 1 o'clock.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Minnesota!
Good night, folks. And good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
Welcome back to the spotlight, young man.
Listen back to any of Common Man's programs by podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.